Hello and many thanks for joining us on yet another edition of Business and Economy Today. Business and Economy Today is a program put together to inform and also educate our numerous viewers about contemporary development in the world of the nation's economy. In this episode, we're taking a special look at electricity. And I have with me in the studios the National Coordinator All Electricity Consumers Protection Forum, Mr. Adiola Samuel Ilori. Mr. Ilori, thank you very much for joining us.
It's nice to be here.
My name is Ade Boyega Labino. I'd like to start by asking you, sir, the value chain in the electricity issues and development in Nigeria. We have the generation, the transmission, and the distribution. But we just came to realize the value chain. Transmission is still in the hands of the federal government. Why has it not been fully privatized?
Well, I want to tell you that even the Gencos and the Discos are not fully privatized. For the opportunity of the listeners at home, never mind the ministers of powers, housings, and works message of the other time that why should you still be bothering the federal government or calling his office to ask about, availability of light and otherwise. The issue is that I'm sure the minister was just trying to be economical with the truth. Or that we have a platform in which I'm also a member. He is also there, which we call Power Sector Perspective, and I challenge him there that I'm sure he's more or less like one of his normal pranks to have said that the federal government has nothing to do with electricity, though therefore if there is no electricity, they should not ask them. I asked, and the question I asked was, what happened to the 40% holding that you still have with the Discos? What happened with the 100% that you have with Transco, which is transmission company? What happens to the 35% you have in Egbin and Geregud? And what happens to the one that out of the Genco station in which federal government is even the sole owners of it? What also happens to Yola Distribution Company in which you have declared force majeure on them since 2015 or thereabout, and the government has always been in charge of that disco?
But now, let me take you to the level of the consumer of electricity.
Okay.
Many have actually paid, but as we speak, they have not received their prepaid meters.
Paid for prepaid meter?
That's right. But they haven't
Depends on when do they pay and on which of that programs do they pay. I could recollect at one point in time, in order to bridge the gap between the metering gap between the discos and the consumer. Let me first of all emphasize that presently the metering gap of disco and consumer is about 4-point-something million. They met 8 million precisely, and so far so good. Some of them have been able to up their game in metering the consumers, and we have about 4.3 or 4.6 metering gap presently. But in order to fill that gap in the past, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, in their wisdom, introduced what they call CAPME, that is a customer advance payment metering what have you initiative, and they ask the customers to pay to the disco, and within 60 days, if they are not supplied, they should stop payment and they cannot be disconnected. But I want you to know that those statements and regulatory directives only exist on a paper. Yes, why it lasted, I know many people that paid. I know many of our members that paid, and I know many of the public that have contacted us, and which I took up with the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, Commissioner for Consumers Affairs, Dr. Moses Arigu, in which he now released a directive again that as many consumers that are still being whole under that CAPME, that they should, or is it CAPME or CAMPI? Yes, CAPME, that they should, come with their receipt mail it to the NEC website or the email of the NEC, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission as it were now, and the discos involved will be directed to do the needful. This CAPME was stopped as far back as December 2017. I am sure that many discos are still not responded to it. That money enter voicemail, as we normally say it in Nigerian parlance. Consumers' money. And the funny side of it is the NEC, who happened to be the regulatory body, did nothing to sanctions the discos involved. Now again, in trying to bridge the gap, they have come up with what we call MAP, Meter Asset Provider. What that means is that they are taking away the metering of consumer from the disco. Ab initio is supposed to be their job. By law, it's supposed to be their job. But thank God for the act. It's not static, it's not unbendable. In the sense that they have been able to say that from time to time, the regulatory body can come up with some legislation in order to change the dynamisms of the value chain. So it is allowed for them to come up with that. And since last year, April, if I'm not mistaken, no, since last year, February, they have been in these roller coasters of approving companies that they will use.
And so in this connection, customers are still suffering estimated billing.
Sure, estimated billing is also legal.
It's legal?
Yes. Legal in the sense that the law in the 2005 Electric Power Sector Reform Act stipulated thus. That is the section 1 of metering, billings, cash, and the other thing called Schedule 2007. Section 1 says that a non-meter consumer, that the service provider happens to be the disco this time, shall provide meters attached to the transformers of a non-meter consumer before billing can take place. But the fact still remains. None of these things have been painstakingly adhered to, and the NEC are not doing anything. In law, as a legal practitioner, wherever you find the word shall, it means it's unbendable, it means it's uncompromisable, it means you cannot add or deduct from it. It must be carried out. But look at the transformer around your area. Are they metered? So those are the things that makes it, a bit difficult for consumer to get justice. But that is why our group was registered for that purpose.
Now, what are the challenges of the GENCOs? A lot of Nigerians cannot understand.
Yes.
That we still experience erratic power supply in our respective localities.
Funny enough,
electricity is still being rationed.
Yes, as a result of our group activities, we have synergies with all these value chains, and luckily enough, the executive secretary of GENCO he's a friend that we have discussion from time to time. In fact, our last summit, she was invited to present paper.
What are those?
She told me emphatically, and before then I'd already know. But she told me that, number one, how can it be explained that the discos are not paying up to 11% of what they generated and giving to them for distribution? And yet we see disco carrying ladder everywhere. As soon as they have distributed their bill 2 days after, forcing people to pay some money, and after they pay that money, the money is not being remitted. Number two, do you know that despite the fact that you said now that there is still power rational, disco rejects load? Do you understand what it means? That when GENCO produce, the disco will reject that production, that they don't need it.
Because it's too much for them to distribute.
Oh, is it too much for them to distribute? Is it too much for them to distribute and you still complain that there is no light?
No, why would they reject?
That is the question I asked the executive director. The executive director of Association of Nigeria Electricity Distribution Company, Mr. Sunday Otunba Bamufin Oduton. And I asked him, and in the live television, what he gave me baffled me. He said, and I quote, that they are not bound to distribute their light to places that we are not going to be paid. So therefore, they have the right to reject that because they will not allow Genco to go and distribute for them or send the load to where they know that they cannot get their money. And I said that you can say you don't want them to send load to that place, but you can as well, your organization or your members, which are the distribution company everywhere, can go to that same community and give bill for the light they did not supply and still force the consumer to pay. That does it make economic sense for an evolving organization, evolving economy in electricity economy, where you are supposed to be looking for prospective customers, that you are still denying them the opportunity of getting what you are producing? That the only way you can easily get value for your money, where the consumer also can get value for their money, is by provisions of prepaid meter. And yet your organization still keep claiming that you don't have money. Hence, you reject load, power cannot be stored, the Genco that produce it be at loss. Even the MBT that is in between the two of you, that always should that become like a shock absorber, the depth of what was produced. You know, there is a Nigerian bulk electricity trader, which we are going to challenge very soon because we don't know their role in it. How can they be a wholesaler for an organization that's supposed to be a private driven? So if you reject load, MBT will absorb it. Are you getting my point? And they will be the one to buy on your behalf and distribute to you. How is that going to help our own policy?
But the traders, MBET is also owning the Gencos.
MBT will own Genco when there is no mechanism as to force the DISCO to pay their money. It is what the DISCO pay to MBT that the MBT pay to this Genco. Yet these people have to pay for gas. They have to pay for equipment to increase generation. And yet we keep saying that our generation, our generation is between 5,000 and 4,600.
And it has stagnated like that over a long.
Why would it not be stagnated? These are factors. I'm not a whole brief for the Genco, but I can tell you that by virtues of that which I have read and seen in their office in Abuja, I can tell you that they are ready to increase. But what is the essence of producing and the DISCO that's supposed to be the retailer rejecting it?
Now, for the second half of Mr. President in office, what is your organization, All Electricity Consumers Protection Forum? What are you putting forward for Mr. President? There has to be a way out. If you are just joining us or you are just joining, the program is Business and Economy Today. And I have the privilege of the presence of the National Coordinator on Electricity Consumers Protection Forum, Mr. Adiola Samuel Ilori. We are discussing issues and development relating to electricity, erratic power supply in Nigeria. We've discussed the value chain, talking about the generation, transmission, and distribution. Now, we want to look at those challenges confronting the transmission companies. What are those challenges confronting TSN?
I think TSN has no challenges. Their challenges are being subsided by their partnership with AFDB, African Development Bank. And the loan they gave to them was premised on the fact that they are the one to supply or to transfer or to appoint the MD, which they have done. So they are being a little bit proactive in the past 1 year or 1.5 years that they have partnered with AFDB, some of these thermal stations that have been opening, generating thermal stations that they are developing, Oloinshogun here and there, even the Mambila, what have you, and the one in Ondo. So, to me, I believe that if there is anything that the transmission has as problem, is distribution company. Because I believe also that Genco has no problem. Yes, they might have paucity of funds based on the fact that they have not been paid. But it's not that they don't have the technical know-how, the capacity to increase our generation. Megawatt. But the only area is paucity of funds and the enabling environment, so to say. Let me be frank. I have always had discussion, and no hold back discussion with Genco's representative and the NEC and the ministers of power is not that on the friendly levels with some of the innovative. Yes, not all the stakeholders. I'm talking about Genco per se. Some of the innovative that will bring about seamless kind of working environment that will help all of us. The question you asked me the other time, what is it that my organization is doing as a kind of a task?
The roadmap for Mr. President.
One of these things that we are pushing on, that we have started since last year, after we organized a summit in which all the stakeholders were present. This same Genco executive director was there, the executive directors of DISCO also was there, and some of the DISCOs around, they were all there, and they give their lectures. And part of what we reach at that point in time is that there is going to be a reviews of their performance contract as soon as it ended.
What's the duration?
The duration is supposed to be 5 years.
5 years.
And so we believe that from 2013 to last year, it ended. Officially, but the BPE was able to extend it to this year. And we are looking forward to the expiration of it. And we are preparing already. We have been writing towards that. We've made our position known to Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. We're also going to make our position known even to the president. We make our position also known over time. Many times we have enough interactive session with the ministers of power, and our position has been unchanged. To help you, we are, myself and other Spirited Nigeria took them to court over electricity tariff in 2015, and we won at the Federal High Court by the judgment of Justice Idris Mohammed, as he was then, now in appeal court. But the judgment was never implemented. But I want to tell you that the plus side of that judgment was the fact that if not for that judgment, if not for that painstaking step, you will have witnessed more increase in electricity tariff. Because if there's any agitation they are making now, is increase in electricity tariff. But I think as soon as they knew that some of us are still looking around, they have a rethink. Because the indices as provided by Section 76 of Section 2, Paragraph B of Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005 are still very much available. The law says there must be a considerable and improvement in the supply of power before you can think of increasing electricity tariff.
Let us look at the electricity consumer. They are complaining, and very bitterly too, about estimated billing. Estimated billing has been severally described as demonic, devilish. And how soon can we do away with this black meter?
I think with the introduction of MAP, which by my latest discussion with the chairman of Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, Mr. James Momo, we are looking at the end of this month towards second quarter of this year, which is April. And we have also written in effect that we want to have the details, the modalities, because you cannot just throw something at us. And then it was when you have now start implementation that we will now have an understanding. By now, we're supposed to have beginning to disseminate such information to the people for them to give us feedback and let us know whether it is applicable. As at the last discussion that I have on this issue, it was in the issue of how they are going to pay back the consumer that use their money to purchase that meter. Because regardless of how much you spend on any electricity equipment, it is not your property. It is the properties of the service provider. But the law make a provision where if you are going to provide such for yourself, you should have a liaise with the service provider where you can be able to state an MOU that how you are going to get your money back. So that was the area where the discussion is becoming, very, very versatile. As at the last time that I was in Abuja, that how will we be paid back? Is it through buying of units from the disco, or how do the NEC intends that the disco pay us back if we are to buy the meter by ourselves? Yes, the process is cool. Everybody wants prepaid meter. They want to do away with this estimated billing. But if we buy it, the law did not say we are the owner. And the law did not even give us that power to buy ab initio. To supply all the equipment, it is for the discos to do. Why? Because every material that they are giving to us, the prices are being included in the tariff that we pay. That is the thing that some individuals and members of the public are not aware of. So they are not doing you any favor if you ask for transformer. They are not doing you any favor if you ask that your wire that is being cutting should be replaced. They are not doing you any favor if there is any circuit breaker problem within your transformer that make you not to have light for some weeks. They are the one to provide. Why? Because in the charges that they are giving you, a monthly load that they are bringing to you, you have already paid it. That was what we call service charge before, 750 naira. As a result of our going to court to challenge the increased electricity, in the wisdom of the minister, he removed that service charge. You understand? So it is not that the discos are doing any favor by providing all that. The money has already been included in the tariff that you pay. But in this map, how are we going to get our money back? I think those are the areas that we are asking the NEC, who happen to be the regulatory body, to give all the details, to give all modality. If not, if we don't get it, then we will have to approach the court to stop them. Because we cannot allow the government to bring any policy that will inflict more pains on the consumers.
Let's look at the area of distribution. How readily available are these transmitters? Transformers. The
transformers supposed to be available. Because in going into business, you ought to know those things that are paramount in the course of your job, either for replacement or for immediate assessment. So to me, I don't want to go into the area where I will be, putting wool on the faces of people to believe that it is not available. But just like Yoruba will say that when you say there is a bended load, they will say don't look at the bended load. Just look at from the person that carried the load, how straight he is.
But there is a body that, talking about the meters now, that is a manufacturing company. But they will not manufacture if they are not paid. I think that's the problem they have with reference to the prepaid meters.
I've explained the issue of prepaid meter for you.
Is it similar with that of the transformer?
It is not similar, so to say.
Is that one important?
Yes.
Can't we manufacture that in Nigeria?
Of course, why not? If the market is there. The market is supposed to be there on the face value. But the distribution, do you know it took our own also ingenuity before they started patronizing the local prepaid meter. Yes, it took our group writing. I wrote to them, I wrote to NEC to let them realize that under section 65 thereabout of Electric Power Sector Reform Act, the law says that before you can think of importing any materials in electricity, you must have seen that the local manufacturer cannot, and the request must be more than 15 million naira. We were at a meeting with Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, and they were like, well, the discos are doing them well with Nigerian Labour President. I was like, If the discos are doing you very well, why are they now bypassing your member to go and import
Transformers.
prepaid meters? You know, like, and I quoted to them, I opened their eyes and I showed it to them. As at that time, there was a company in Ibadan that had produced 500,000 worth of prepaid meter that was not patronized.
You know, after the production, it has to be calibrated.
Yes.
Depending on where you will use it.
You will use it, yes.
Now, let's still with the prepaid meter. If you are under Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company,
Yeah.
and you are relocating to another community where Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company is still administering, can you relocate?
Yes, you can. By virtue of the calibration, by virtue of the code.
What is the procedure?
The procedure is just to inform them. Because you are not going to buy a new, what do you call it, slotting card. It is the same slotting card. The only area where it is not possible is when you are moving from Ikeja to Eko distribution, what have you. Not even Ibadan is still far.
Yeah,
Eko here. Or Ibadan, supposing. If you are within Ikorodu axis, you know, within Ikorodu axis, Ikeja and Ibadan, you know, exchange service providing for the people. Like in Ogijo area now, I think it is IBDC that is in charge, and yet they are still in the same Ikorodu. Where some area where Ikeja has. So if you are leaving the main area where Ikeja is covering that area, and you are moving to Ogijo where IBDC is covering that area, you have to leave it behind because the code is not the same.
Well, on a very final note, because we need to bring this program to an end, what in the area of policy making, the stakeholders have issues with the office of the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing. What can the Honorable Minister do differently, even now that the Mr. President has won another 4 years in office?
I don't.
In the area of policy making.
I don't know the area where the stakeholders has problem.
I'm talking about the Honorable Minister.
Yes, I don't. If you can be a bit specific about the area where the stakeholder has problem with ministers of power in policy, what have you?
Oduto has issues with him because some time ago he called Oduto some names as usurper, and of course, well, the Honorable Minister is the one that should do some of these things you mentioned with reference to the expiration of the term of agreement with the Jankos, the transmission companies, and even the distribution companies. What kind of advice would you like to give to the government in the area of policy making as they are going to another 4 years?
Like I said, even the totalities of the contract and the performance contract and the license is subject to review. So if all those ones are subject to review, I believe in policy making of working environment thereafter, all will be subject to review. Like I said, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The coming together of these vultures, I call them vultures because like we have a kind of a meeting in Oriental Hotel, and all of them were seated. Minister was represented. The NEC came with the commissioner of legal, the Mr. Dafe, and the disco. And I told them the only oppressor Nigeria has now, they are these people. So to me, the coming together of the vultures to hit the carcass is even on a wrong note. So until that is separated, because the questions these people could keep talking about is that the government that entered into agreement with them gave them opportunity of having to enjoy some leverages of money after they might have take off, in which is in their agreement, which I saw, which I know. That is, the government of them signed with them that they will be entitled to about 500 million naira every year.
I've been speaking
as a takeoff.
I've been speaking with the National Coordinator, Electricity, All Electricity Consumers Protection Forum, Mr. Adiola Samuel Ilori, on this episode of Business and Economy Today. The time is not sufficient, but we'll look for another time to take a deeper look at electricity in Nigeria and those factors responsible for the erratic power supply. Why are we still on estimated billing? Why do we still have analog billing around us. I want to say thank you, sir, for letting us be a part of your schedule.
You're welcome.
It's been very informative and highly educative. Don't forget to join us same time next week for yet another episode of your favorite program on television, Business and Economy Today. On behalf of my technical director and my producer, it's been Adegboyega Labiron. Thank you for finding time to join us. And until then, it's bye for now.